Hello and welcome to this edition of the DOL Pod. I'm your host, Alejandro Otero, and this episode features a conversation on the two futures of AI in education, opportunity or digital divide. Our guest today is Miss Etoulia Salas-Burnett, the director for the Center for Digital Business at Howard University. Miss Salas-Burnett, thank you for being here with us today. If you could share with our listeners a little bit about your background and what you do here at Howard.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today. A little about me. My journey as a professional actually started here at Howard University. Back in 2012, I graduated and moved across the country to Oregon to work at Intel for many years. My last role there was in talent, and I realized that it was more important to me to prepare students for the workforce than it was to actually hire them for the company I was at. And at that point, I decided to pivot into education. I got my master's at UPenn. And my old marketing professor called me one day and she said, "Hey, we'd love to start this new center and I want you to be in charge of it." So one thing I've learned in my career is that when a Black woman you admire tells you to do something, you just go on and do it. That's how I became the inaugural director of the Center for Digital Business here at Howard. And it's been a really rewarding experience. I love all things technology, and I consider myself a lifelong learner. So being in a space where we can provide educational experiences around data analytics, AI, cyber, digital marketing, all of those things are exciting to me. And especially with AI, allows me to learn along the way.
Tell us a little bit about the Center for Digital Business and its purpose as you've started to build it out here at Howard.
Yeah, absolutely. The Center for Digital Business, essentially, our goal is to connect students with the tools, training, and learning opportunities at the intersection of business and technology. So when you think about today with AI, things are moving so quickly. Every day there's a new headline, there's a new tool, there's a new model, there's something. And unfortunately, academia and developing courses doesn't move as quickly. So the center's role, as I see it, is to be that bridge between what's happening in industry and providing our students with resume-worthy experiences as they matriculate through Howard. So we have a couple of different verticals, which include data analytics, cybersecurity, AI, and other emerging technologies like blockchain and digital marketing, as well as some strategic transformation efforts as well. We deliver this education to students in a couple of different ways. One being our direct workshops and programming that we offer. The second way is through our capstone projects. So we partner with faculty members to bring companies into the classroom. We help them to develop a capstone project that students can work on throughout the semester that is providing real work and real value to the company. And then the last way is through faculty professional development, where again, we partner with industry to create lunch and learn opportunities and offer other resources to faculty to influence from a grassroots perspective, the modernization of some of our courses here at Howard.
So it sounds like you're looking at this from as many different angles as you can, trying to provide some really on the ground solutions that are going to build up our learners as they are entering the workforce and prepare them to be tomorrow's leaders. That's amazing. I want to shift a little bit here where you shared a note about the integration for AI and different technologies that you're exposing your learners to so that they're prepared to use these in the workforce. I think a big consideration, especially around AI right now, is the ethical use of these tools in the AI space and how we're using them appropriately. And if we're thinking about our use before they're enacted. So how does the Center for Digital Business address AI ethics within your program?
Yeah, when you think about AI and educating people on how to use AI, if you're doing it right, ethics is always going to be a cornerstone of that work, right? Because there are not only impacts for us people, but there's also impacts for the environment. And we need to understand those as we're moving into operating and using these things. For example, this semester, we kicked off our digital literacy project, which is a cohort-based training program for a small group of students. They're going through an AI fluency track right now. They're actually going to have their portfolio showcase event, which we're really excited about. Students have been learning about different components of AI and how to use it. And through that curricula, we have been weaving in that responsible AI, ethical AI kind of thread that we're pulling week over week, right? So there are a few things to consider. The environment is one. So what does it mean, or what actually happens when you type a prompt into a generative AI tool, for example? That information is going into this gigantic language learning model, or LLM, where it is accessing data and information from the entire internet and all these libraries and all of these things. That takes a lot of power in a data center somewhere. And that electricity that is being generated to respond to your prompt needs to be cooled. That system needs to be cooled. So not only are we using electricity, we're also using a lot of fresh water to maintain these data centers and keep them safe. Now, unfortunately, once the fresh water is used to cool down these data centers, that water is not released clean and in a drinkable form for humans or for consumption by the earth. So there's some tension there. There's things we need to consider. Obviously, we all need to use AI, especially as you're thinking about going into the professional world. There's going to be an expectation that you use it. But think about where you don't need to, right? Think about where it makes sense and where there are other ways that you could accomplish the same goal without using AI. It's a great tool, but it's not always the right tool for what you need to accomplish. So we try to bake that mindset and perspective into the students as they're moving through this certificate program.
And, that sort of begs the question around all these new opportunities. It's driving so much. There's so much innovation. Are you worried? Do you consider at all the potential to widen the digital divide as AI becomes more and more integrated into our work and daily lives?
I think it's absolutely a risk, right? Because in order to operate AI, you need access to a device, you need access to internet. And we know that connectivity is an issue across the country if we're just talking about the US. And we also know that technology, even though it feels like a nominal expense to us when you think about a cell phone or a laptop, there are still many, many people who don't have access to those sorts of resources. And just by nature of not having those things, it puts you behind because then you can't practice with them. You can't learn how to use them. You can't modernize. And, I don't like necessarily the term future proof because I don't think that's real, but there's not a way that you can prepare yourself for new careers if you're not working with and tinkering with or practicing how to use some of these things today. So I think it is a real challenge, one that isn't new, and one that, as a community, I think we need to consider and continue to be mindful of and how we can address those disparities. But I think ultimately the upside of AI use, when you just think of generative AI and accessibility there, globally, if you don't have a laptop, you do have a phone most of the time. And there is so much more opportunity these days to run programs and learn things and practice with AI tools on your phone, which is a bright spot, I would say.
In your curriculum, the way that you're interacting with your learners, how are we teaching students to view these new technologies maybe as a tool for digital equity? So flipping that have and have not, and
Mhm.
leaning into building something that's going to be good for all people.
My mantra that I've kind of pressed on the center, but is one that I hold dear, is that everyone, all of us, are technologists. We all are capable of building, creating, designing, and sharing via technology. And I think AI specifically has really amplified that belief for me that we can learn how to build apps. We can learn how to optimize systems. We can learn how to create at scale, right, through AI. And it's really about opening up the possibilities in your mind to what a tool like this can create. Every day, a new millionaire is created because of AI, right? So it's a matter of taking the time and having the audacity to actually believe you can and to just jump out there and start learning how to use these tools.
I do just want to touch on a little bit more. You noted before, even if we don't have access to a laptop or a desktop computer, we have access to a phone, and if that's hooked up to the internet, if I've got my connection, I can access these tools. But in terms of your learners, maybe, what are some things that your industry partners have been able to support you with in leveling the playing field? If a student can't afford or access a powerful enough laptop so that they can run these tools, um, are there any ways that your partners have been able to support you and your learners?
Yeah, so we have some fantastic partners over in the Center for Digital Business. And I think the one of the most valuable things they've offered us is their time, right? We've had VPs of AI transformation and technology come into the center and speak with our students and get them to not so much worry about the tools themselves because we know those will change and morph over time, but really focus on the mindset and the frameworks that are needed to be successful with any of these top technologies. It's more agnostic than people would kind of assume. Nobody needs to be a super deep expert in Chat GPT. You need to know how to talk to Chat GPT a certain way, or think through where you're going to apply AI in a workflow. Yes. But the tool that you use to do those things most of the time doesn't necessarily matter so much. So, having those executives come in and share with our students about these frameworks, systems of thinking in order to apply those technologies has been invaluable in my perspective. Anyone can come in and, throw around a couple of extra logins or some credits or something, right? But how do you think about how to use these things is, I think, more important. And what we've found is that mindset really matters when you're talking about AI and how to use it. There are certain core abilities that you need that have nothing to do with technology, really, in order to be successful in adopting AI into your life and your business practices. And I think they get overlooked a lot because we are so focused on the tools themselves.
It doesn't matter what your access point is. It matters that you come to it with the right critical thinking skills and the right problem solving skills to navigate these tools and make them work for you. Yes, throughout this series, I keep seeing the image of the plane being built while it's in the air, and that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. But there's an excitement to it, and I'm really glad to see how many people are really grabbing on and letting it take them in the air and see where it goes. Well, as we're wrapping up here, I'd like to ask if there are any final thoughts or considerations around your work that you'd like to leave our listeners with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that I wish everyone would know about AI is that although it's important to learn how to use it and make it work for you and your life, there is still value in deep knowledge and expertise in a specific field. And I don't want people to lose sight of the value of deep expertise in a subject because AI has democratized information so much, right? We have information, but then we have knowledge and wisdom, and that is still highly valuable. And I would say will continue to be especially valuable as AI becomes more prevalent across industries and workspaces. So I don't want anyone listening or anyone who's in a degree program or something right now to feel like, oh, well, AI, I can just chat GPT my way out of anything. So what am I doing this program for? Right? There's still so much value in it. And I don't want folks to lose sight of that because as AI continues to grow, those human skills are going to increase in value more and more.
Thank you so much, Miss Salas-Burnett. We really appreciate your time and expertise today. And also, thank you to our listeners. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time. DOL Pod.